Hello, everyone. This is Jay from Mphasis Bangalore. I have the Google team also on the call for the webinar, and welcome everyone. I'm sorry, there is some echo capturing in. Let me repeat. Thanks, everyone, and good evening, good morning. This is Jay from Bangalore, and I have the Google team uh, on the call. And what we are planning to do for the next 40 minutes is walk you through the exciting journey Mphasis is embarking along with Google and talk you through the interesting offerings Google Cloud has, both in the compute side as well as the AI machine learning side. We have been in a partnership discussion with Google for the past few months, and we have been working on several joint solutions, and we are amazed by the capability of Google Cloud, both from the cloud side of things as well as all the mature AI offerings and quite a few off-the-shelf APIs which Google provides. And we are quite happy with the relationship which we have. And I hope today's webinar throws more light and a lot of those things, and so that a lot of the participants joining the call are able to benefit out of the partnership going forward. The Mphasis Google journey started around 6 to 8 months back, and as like I said earlier, we've been working together on joint solutions and several areas of mutual interest. Uh, Specifically, we are working on areas around hybrid cloud, quite extensively working on the AI, machine learning, and deep learning space. The whole idea is to build joint solutions and joint go-to-market offerings, which will be targeted at our customers. So we are in the process of building business relevant solutions, both in the cognitive and cloud space. Today's webinar is going to cover some of the high-level aspects. What we have planned for the Mphasis, family is have a series of webinars starting with today's. Today we are going to cover the high-level stuff. We will be following this with a few more webinars, which will get into the details. We will be following those webinars with keynotes and hands-on training from Googlers, followed by an Mphasis Google Day, which will have hackathons as well as trainings. So before I hand over to Deepak and the rest of the Google team, so this is a one-way webinar, as in the audio is going to be one way, so you can hear Deepak speaking. So there are quite a few notes and comments which we have shared from the previous webinar. So this is a repeat webinar. We had one today afternoon for the India folks. So quite a few notes and answers are already captured in the FAQ. Nevertheless, if you feel compelled enough to ask questions not covered in the past, you can ask those through the chat window. Deepak, over to you, and take it over.
Thank you so much, Dr. Jay. Thanks for the introductions. Hey, Mphasis team, it's really a pleasure and honor to partner with you all and talk about what Google Cloud has to offer and how are we relevant to your vision of the next applied. So thanks for taking the time and joining this call. On today's webinar, what we're going to be covering is a brief introduction to Google Cloud. It's going to be an overview of the solutions that we have to offer. Like Dr. Jay mentioned, clearly we have been looking at partnership avenues. We've been working with the teams to ensure that we are looking at, how can Google Cloud help you in areas such as analytics, development, hybrid cloud. But beyond all that, it's important that there are elements of certification and training that we offer to you to get started. So towards the end of the presentation, I do have a few things to talk about in terms of training and certification. But with that, let's get started. So my name is Deepak. I lead inside sales and customer growth for Google Cloud in India. And effectively today, we're just going to talk a little bit about what is Google Cloud and why Google Cloud. A lot of customers have been asking this question, why Google Cloud? And of course, as you already know, that Google's been in the cloud business for the last 4 to 5 years, and we have done a whole lot of innovation, a whole lot of investments, listening to our customers, and again, in line with the vision of making information and data universally accessible to everyone. So, what makes Google Cloud unique is the ability to be a secure platform. In fact, we have the world's largest private global network of data centers, which are controlled end to end. So, to be a part of a reliable global security network makes it an absolutely secure environment to work out of. And I'm sure many of your customers talk about security as a prime area of concern while moving their applications and workloads to cloud. We also are secure from encryption by default. I'll talk a little bit more about encryption as we go along through the slide deck, but also to let you know that we have purpose built infrastructure, servers, software, network, and data centers. And these are end to end encrypted right from the chip to the data center. We also have an open architecture, which effectively means that at no point in time you're locked in. There is an open source support and engineer to engineer connect that makes it an absolutely open platform. We'll talk about some communities that we have from an open platform standpoint on both application development and machine learning in just a bit. We're also an intelligent cloud. And when I say intelligent, it effectively means that we have inbuilt artificial intelligence that lets you get insights faster and hone your competitive advantage. And that, of course, means that you're getting insights faster, you're getting ahead of the game without having to worry too much about how an infrastructure would behave, whether you have the right infrastructure or whether you have the right sizing done. Of course, from a transformative standpoint, there is intelligent productivity with a culture of collaboration through various products that help you in terms of not just sharing best practices, but also sharing code across the organization. So that ways, Google Cloud stands apart from the rest of the cloud vendors in terms of being secure, open, intelligent, and a transformative platform. And we will cover some of the elements of these as we move forward. As partners with Mphasis, we are committed to shared success. And when I say shared success, it's in the areas of being a technical success partner. We are obviously very focused on your commercial success and how do we ensure that you are successfully innovating as well. And I'll sort of double click a little bit on each of these areas. When I say technical success, it effectively means that we're looking at providing you an open source leadership. We effectively don't want to lock you into a platform and say, hey, develop your applications on this. We want to be able to give you insights. We want to have engineers talking to you effectively to drive technical success in the projects that you undertake for your end users. From a commercial success point of view, we look at reduced lock-in, effectively give you right size recommendations so that you're able to size the projects correctly. You're able to actually have a lot more cost efficiencies built into your business model. And finally, on innovation, data and artificial intelligence for growth, we're looking at how do we innovate faster, better for our customers as they go through the journey of digital transformation. Computing and the future is all about flexibility. And for this, I need to take a little bit of a walk down the memory lane because I want to talk a little bit about, how did we sort of move to the third wave on the extreme right of Google Cloud. Now, 20 years ago, the first wave of Google Cloud, of cloud, not Google Cloud, but cloud in general, started with co-located hosting. So co-location gave users the financial efficiency of renting physical space rather than investing in data center real estate. In fact, today's cloud environments have a lot of similarities with these private data centers and colo facilities of the decades past. Now, effectively, the components of these virtual data centers match the physical building blocks of hosted computing servers, CPUs, disks, load balancers, and effectively whole lot of virtual devices. And that is when the whole aspect of virtualization came into being. So we moved from a colo sort of a wave into a virtualized sort of a wave. Now we obviously at Google we're on the same journey, but we effectively realized that if we had to run large scale applications for our customers, that approach would not work. So what we did was with all the limitations of physical data centers, we started to containerize our applications. And what it effectively meant was we started to move to a more serverless DevOps kind of an architecture, which helped reduce not just the physical costs, but also ensured uptime and availability to our customers. Now, I'm sure many of you use YouTube, Gmail, Maps that serve millions of users per minute. Yet, the developers who work on these applications, they update production code multiple times a day without any disruption, and the systems are still resilient and secure. And the way we started this from the first principles of designing every element of our infrastructure so that our developers could be uniquely productive while enjoying the unprecedented scale, reliability, and security. So effectively, moving completely to a serverless DevOps architecture has given Google a cutting edge over its competition, and that is the infrastructure, and that is the scale that we are actually offering to our partners and our end customers today. In today's session, being a broad overview of Google, what Google Cloud is all about, we're going to focus on three major elements. One is on infrastructure, security, and networking, and talk a little bit about how our infrastructure is designed, what kind of security features do we have, and how do we sort of network across the globe. The second area is going to be all about accelerating development and unlocking data. So again, this might be of absolute relevance to you because clearly many of you are working on projects that have a whole lot of development and data and analytics. The third piece is all about being an open, enterprise-friendly, cost-efficient organization. So we're going to cover these three in a little bit, but at the same time, like Dr. Jay mentioned before, we will follow these through with deep dive on each of these areas so that all of you can get visibility to the kind of services we have to offer around infrastructure, around application development, as well as in terms of open source. Let me begin with security, network, and infrastructure. But before I talk about infrastructure from Google, when we speak about the whole transformational journey from onto cloud, and I'm sure many of your customers are talking about this, lifting and shifting a workload from an on-premise data center to the cloud isn't necessarily transformative. It is just a simple move from one place to the other. Of course, it might have some cost efficiency built in. Now, moving from one cloud vendor to the other cloud vendor isn't necessarily transformational either. What we effectively talking about here is not lift and shift workloads and applications. We're talking about lift and improve. And the way Google Cloud team lifts and improves the experience for our customers is by providing many of these features when you're looking at a cloud journey for yourselves and for your customers. To give you some examples, we offer live migration, which effectively means that there is going to be no planned downtime while you're moving your applications from a colo or from an on-premise data center to the cloud. We offer custom machine types, which means that you don't over provision for burst workloads or peak workloads. There is an absolute provisioning available to you so that you can customize and configure the machines that you would like to use in your respective projects. There's also automatic app specific sizing recommendations that the engineering team works with you on providing. These are automatic. In many cases, if you need more help, there is obviously a team that supports sizing recommendations, and that's something that we absolutely help our customers in the migration to cloud. VMs boot in seconds and not in minutes. Obviously, a huge distinct advantage when you're looking at a faster time to market without having to worry about whether you have provision hardware, whether you have the right operating system, and so on and so forth. The more you use, the more discounts you get, and with no upfront payments, effectively making it absolutely cost efficient for you because you can start using Google Cloud from day one. And the more you use, there are more sustained discounts that you get. You also get throughput storage at no extra cost, absolute elastic cost in terms of per second billing, and you can resize your disks on the fly, like I said, with easier operations. And when we speak about these features, these are all about creating an improved customer experience where you focus on the functionality or how can your application be better, how's your customer experience looking rather than worrying about hey, are my infrastructure costs going up or down? Am I paying by pay per use? Am I paying by second? I think all of those administrative overheads get reduced in your journey to Google Cloud because of all these things that Google Cloud actually has inbuilt for its customers. In terms of just infrastructure, Google's infrastructure is reliable, fast, it's scalable, it's geographical, it provides geographical coverage, and I'm sure you must have heard this from other cloud vendors as well. But what's most important is when we speak about reliability, we're talking about built-in redundancy and scale, which means you can scale your applications to run hundreds and thousands of users, and I'm sure you have end customers who may have applications that run into millions. That kind of a reliable infrastructure is absolutely required and at 100% availability so that the end user experience is delightful. Coming back to speed, and we'll talk a little bit in terms of speed as well, and what's Google's underlying architecture in terms of speed. We provide millisecond access for all storage classes, high IOPS for vCPUs, and high bandwidth global networking. And all this has been possible because of the investments Google has made in terms of building a hugely scalable infrastructure. It's the same infrastructure on which you access YouTube, you do search, you use Gmail, and effectively we are replicating this for our customers by providing them access to that infrastructure, which is away from the public internet. Also, in terms of geographic coverage, we now have 18 regions in all, with each region having a minimum of 3 zones at least, and these are highly available, effectively meaning that there is a whole lot of global coverage available to your customers across, across different continents. Coming to security, and this is a theme we hear a lot in industries like financial services and healthcare and so on. Clearly there is a whole lot of focus in terms of whether I have a secure environment. So for us, our infrastructure doesn't really rely on a single technology to make it secure. What we actually do is to build the security through progressive layers that deliver true defense in depth. So when I speak about security, it's at every single layer, right at your hardware level, right up to your storage devices, right up to your virtual devices. Effectively, the scale of an infrastructure allows us to absorb many service attacks, and we have multiple layers of protection that further reduce the risk of any DOS impact. Again, these are elements, these are things that we sort of get certified. We get absolute and a whole lot of trust and certifications from different compliance agencies. We get them independently certified to make sure that every single layer in the Google Cloud environment is available to you. And really, you don't even have to do anything about it. As soon as you give your data on Google Cloud, it is encrypted end to end. When we speak about by default, so this is not something which is optional, by the way. It's not about getting an encryption which is optional. It is a little bit more by default, which means that you get purpose built chips, servers, storage, network, and data center. In fact, we have our own chips which are called Titan, and these are end to end encrypted, which provide absolute security to the hardware and the software environments that you might be running. The servers and the operating systems are designed for the sole purpose of providing services. So these are custom built, like I said, and do not include any unnecessary components like video cards or peripheral interconnects that can actually introduce vulnerabilities. So these are absolutely designed and purpose built for our end customers. Just talking a little bit in terms of encryption, like I said, encryption is something which is absolutely at the heart of our DNA. 59% of our companies actually lack an enterprise-wide encryption strategy. A whole lot of customers don't really pay a lot of attention to this, but when it comes to Google, you get this by default at no extra cost. Let me just kind of take a few seconds to talk about how exactly does encryption really work in a Google Cloud environment. So data is first chunked, which is effectively broken into pieces, and each chunk is encrypted with its own data encryption key. Each data encryption key is wrapped using a key encryption key for another layer of protection. The encrypted chunks and wrapped encryption keys are then distributed across Google's storage infrastructure. When data needs to be retrieved, the whole process is repeated in reverse. So it's an end-to-end encryption by default, like I said, which, and I'm paying a whole lot of emphasis on the security aspect, because this is something which is super critical to customers in specific industries which are highly regulated. These are a list of the certifications that we have achieved, that we have received. We've also got a whole lot of industry standards met. And just to stay ahead, we have a team of 500 security experts that work within Google, whose full-time job is to just make sure that Google Cloud data, applications, infrastructure is absolutely secure and is meeting the regulatory framework across all continents. I mentioned this before. We continue to expand globally. We have 18 regions now, and Hong Kong is the latest that we've added in a list of regions. And each region, as I said, has three zones. So we have 55 zones that are available, and these are highly available zones for our customers. There are a whole lot of regions also coming up, especially in places like Osaka and in Zurich. Going back a little bit in terms of our network infrastructure, Google spent a whole lot of time, resource, money just building out this infrastructure. In fact, we were born in a cloud company. Our entire data in search, in Gmail, in YouTube, we have 8 products which have billion users running. And obviously, that kind of scale is only possible if we had the best network infrastructure in the world. So we have a privately owned network which is isolated from the public internet, and again, we are the largest public cloud network in the world with about 100 points of presence, which is more than any other public cloud provider. We also have hundreds of thousands of miles of fiber optic cable worldwide, which is probably the largest across the world. And we also have submarine cables, which are underwater cables, which is again the highest across any of the public cloud vendors. So we speak about high security, low latency, the same latency that you see when you're running a YouTube video, or when you're doing a Gmail application, or when you're doing a search. It's the same latency that you get on the applications that are being developed on Google Cloud. I'm going to move into data and how do you accelerate development. And there are multiple themes when we speak from a Google Cloud standpoint in terms of areas that might be of interest. Let me kind of talk a little bit about analytics, our whole focus on big data, and again, how do we manage database and storage in this section. Let me begin with talking about, why do you need Google's data and analytics? And again, when you can't really figure out how to integrate, manage, and use your big data, you miss out on what it can do for you. And the only reason being that traditional data and analytics platforms have spent a ton of time, or we spend a lot of time in terms of configuring this whole analytical workloads. How do we deploy them? How do we maintain them? Where do we get this data from? We spend a whole lot of time just taking care of the systems in a traditional environment. However, with Google Data and Analytics, you spend more time on insights and less on programming and overheads. Effectively, we manage the whole focus on insights and not just on infrastructure. We support both batch and streaming modes, and again, we provide an engine that helps you with analytics, transactions, and data warehousing. This is We also have real-time ingestion into batch and our streaming workloads, and support both ETL and ELT when we sort of cover when we sort of have applications running on Google Analytics. Just give me a moment. Moving on. What happened? In here, the camera. Sorry, guys, just give me a second. Just go to your presentation back. Yeah. Okay. Exit this. Can we? Yeah. Click that. Still on your camera. Sorry, we're having a bit of a technical glitch here. Just give you a second. You're back. Okay. All right. Sorry about the glitch here. Just moving on from analytics to big data solutions. And when we speak about big data, there are a whole lot of services that Google has to offer in terms of managing just the whole the different types of data, structured and unstructured. I'm going to talk a little bit about what are the components of big data, within the Google Cloud environment. So we have a solution called BigQuery, which is a fast, highly scalable, cost-effective, and fully managed cloud data warehouse for analytics with built-in machine learning. This, in fact, has petabyte scale, and it is a serverless, highly scalable enterprise data warehouse, which is designed to make your data analysts productive at unmatched price performance. So again, BigQuery is used a whole lot in terms of transactional workloads where you have data running into petabytes, and that's something that we are seeing a lot of interest from our customers. The good news is that BigQuery is now available in India as well, in the India region, and we have customers already interested in using this service from us. Coming to Spanner, it's a horizontally scalable, strongly consistent relational database service. So again, this is again another feather in the hat with regard to having a horizontally scalable SQL. I'll talk a little bit about Data Studio in just a bit, but let's talk about Data Flow, which effectively allows you to have real-time streaming analytics, and these are again used for ingesting data to have data onboarding done with either within an IoT setup or in an analytics setup. So Data Flow helps you in terms of moving data across applications. We also have Data Proc, which is effectively a Hadoop Spark cluster, and it's managed by Google Cloud. Uh, PubSub is a real-time streaming analytics engine, which allows you to, again, ingest data. So for example, if you have a customer who's running devices in a manufacturing setup, and the devices need to send out any data, PubSub is the engine that takes all of this data and then passes this off to an analytics engine for it to analyze and, of course, give you back insights. Coming back to Bigtable is again a NoSQL wide column database service, and this is ideal for ad tech, financial services, and for IoT kind of setups. These are some of the services that we have to offer when we manage big data in different environments. Some of them are relational in nature, some of them are non-relational in nature. The one piece I missed out was Data Studio. And Data Studio is effectively to visualize your data. So if you want to see insights being given to you in a specific format, you can actually use Data Studio to get those insights. So think of it this way. You have an engine called PubSub, which is ingesting data. You have Data Flow for streaming this analytics. You may actually store this data into Bigtable. You may want to query it, and you might want to visualize it. So that's the way the entire flow really works when we talk about big data solutions. Again, we will do a deep dive on big data as we move forward. This is an introductory session, so I don't want to get way too technical. At the same time, I want to make sure that you understand that there are some excellent services that our customers are already using to visualize and get insights from big data in their environments. I spoke briefly about IoT, but Google Cloud IoT is again something that we offer to our customers, especially when they need to use a lot of data coming in from devices. It's again an integrated software stack for edge and for on-prem, and has end-to-end security for both edge and cloud, which means that when you start using Google IoT core platform, It gives you again the same level of encryption that you would expect from any other Google Cloud service, right from the device to the core to the of course to the place where you store it. The cloud IoT environment is a comprehensive set of integrated services that help you unlock business insights, and these insights can be used for making a whole lot of decisions, like what our customers are doing with cloud IoT. Many of our customers are doing predictive maintenance using IoT, using cloud IoT. Many of them are doing building and home automation solutions, and we have a great case study again in the area of consumer lighting, where we are seeing this being used very effectively. These are also being used for asset tracking in logistics and supply chain companies, as well as for fraud detection. And that's a use case that we have, in multiple industries where IoT data can be used to detect fraud. Just to sort of sum up what we have to offer from a storage and database service point of view, some of this I've already covered in my previous slide, but I'll again sort of do a little bit of a lowdown in terms of where exactly do these sort of fit in. Let me begin with the extreme right, which is the warehouse. And I spoke about a petabyte scale system, a service that we use in BigQuery, which is effectively for querying petabyte scale enterprise data warehouses. So these are effective for using analytics and dashboards and get insights in minutes, in seconds, really. What you should take days together to sort of manage or query a data warehouse can now be done in seconds. And there are some great demos available when we sort of do the deep dive sessions. We also have databases for relational environments. So we have Cloud Spanner and Cloud SQL, which I have already covered. Cloud Spanner is for RDBMS plus scale, and then Cloud SQL is for web frameworks. Again, the use cases are very different because in a Cloud Spanner environment, you might want to have a high OLTP kind of an environment, which is effectively the case in either a fintech company or a marketing tech company. Cloud SQL is effectively used a whole lot in e-commerce setups. So that's on the relational side. On the non-relational side, we have Bigtable, which has heavy read plus write events. And then again, something which can be used in ad tech, financial services, and IoT, because these are again a whole lot of transactions that come in, and these can be stored on these non-relational databases. We also have Cloud Data Store, which is effectively for hierarchical applications, mobile applications, web applications, and these are effectively used a whole lot in gaming gaming domains. Coming back to App Engine Memcache, which is again used for web and mobile applications gaming. This is we'll talk a little bit about App Engine, but the whole use case is around how do we manage quick turnarounds, how do we manage hot data, warm data, cold data. This is something which can actually help you to scale your applications without having to worry too much about the infrastructure behind it. And finally, extreme left is the cloud storage, which is effectively used for disaster recovery, backup and archival, managing your binary or object data. So it's an end-to-end service portfolio that offers you both storage and ways to manage your database. There are ways to store it. There are ways to query it. There are ways to again get insights from it. And of course, like I said, you can even sort of build disaster recovery solutions on top of it. So again, this is something that we will deep dive as we move forward, into the further webinars. An area of interest and a huge area of differentiation for Google Cloud is the advancements that we have in machine learning. And machine learning and AI are the hot topics, as you already might be aware. But let me again talk a little bit about the kind of services that we have to offer from a machine learning standpoint. I'll begin with the extreme right again, where we have a whole lot of pre-built models that are already kind of built and are offered today as a service. These are APIs that you can use, such as Cloud Vision API. And when we say Vision API, it is an API that can help you to search through and store and analyze images. This is all visual images, objects that you can actually integrate within your application itself. We also have Cloud Speech API, where you can have an application that can recognize speech. We have Translation API that can help you in terms of translating. So Google Translate, for example, runs cloud translation API, where you can speak in a language and get the response back in a different language. And again, video intelligence API, which is effectively to manage, tag videos, and this is something that we use a whole lot in Google Photos as well, just to sort of make sure that, let's say, if you were to sort of query a specific video which has a specific artist or a specific keyword, you just key that in and it searches through thousands of videos to kind of get you out the output. These APIs are already pre-built. You don't have to write them again. You can start to include them in your applications to make these applications more user friendly, especially in places where you need to have more speech or translation or video or pictures that can actually enhance the whole experience of an end customer working on your customer's platform. Let me move to the extreme left, which is effectively an open source technology called TensorFlow. This is something that Google built as a community. We designed the TensorFlow, and then of course open sourced it. But we use TensorFlow a whole lot, and these are to build, again, machine learning models right from scratch. So if you're a machine learning researcher, you would be literally sort of starting from the scratch in terms of building a model. You need to train the model. You need to query the model to ensure that you're able to get the results in a specified period of time. So again, TensorFlow is something which is used by researchers to build and train machine learning models, and there are communities available on TensorFlow, so you don't have to actually kind of go and do this right from the scratch. You can actually get a lot of best practice sharing on the communities that are available on TensorFlow on the net. Let me move to the center, which is all about building and generating custom models. So we already have a couple of custom built models on which you can train these models to behave or give you the results in a certain way. AutoML is a classic example where you don't really need to have machine learning training or a degree in machine learning. You can actually move your application onto AutoML, and it automatically trains the model and helps you generate the results in a short period of time. So these are pre-built custom models that you can use and integrate within your current set of applications, especially the ones that you want to see becoming more and more intelligent and give you throughput in a short period of time. I'm sure you understand that I will not be able to cover a whole lot of machine learning topics in today's overview, but I assure you that as we move forward, you would get an opportunity to do some hands-on training on a machine learning platform. We would do some specific deep dives on machine learning and walk you through what exactly are the components of machine learning within Google Cloud, and of course help you build some custom models when we kind of come to Google to Mphasis office for the hackathons and for the POCs. Talking about building and modernizing applications, I did mention some time back to you where we said we moved away from a virtualized setup into moving into a more containerized setup. So effectively, we are selling what we actually use, and we have three services that can help you in terms of developing your applications. We have App Engine, we have Kubernetes, and Kubernetes is something many of you may have heard of. I'll talk a little bit more about it, and Compute Engine. I'll differentiate all three for you. Look at App Engine as a platform as a service. So it is effectively a platform that provides you a flexible zero ops platform to build highly available applications. You don't have to worry about the infrastructure, the underlying VMs. All you're worried about is in terms of how do I make sure that my applications can be absolutely serverless, just focus on the DevOps, and how do I kind of focus on the time to market? Because the key to success in terms of App Engine for customers is places where you need to have faster time to market, multiple product releases, multiple version releases in a very short period of time. That is exactly what we use at Google when we have to do multiple releases of a product or of a service to our customers. Coming to Kubernetes, Kubernetes is again an open source platform available to our customers, and this helps in building your applications through containerization. When I say containerization, it's basically breaking down your applications into smaller chunks and doing rapid application deployment across the entire application framework. Again, this is used for deploying and maintaining a fleet of virtual machines. And again, this is something you don't have to worry too much in terms of what changes are happening at the kernel level, what changes are happening at the operating system level. You just have to worry about how do you deploy and maintain a fleet of virtual machines through containers on Kubernetes engine. Available on communities on GitHub. It's available to all developers. You can actually start building your own applications on Kubernetes. We will talk a little bit more about what we can do to get you certified on Kubernetes going forward. Compute engine is effectively your virtual machines, and this is standard across all public cloud vendors. This is what most public cloud vendors have to offer from a compute point of view, where you have to make changes to the kernel, where you may have an application that may not be container ready, and you have to run it on the compute node. So these are to spin off your virtual machines to ensure that they are provisioned well to meet your requirement and gives you the best price to performance. So these are the three components of how can you actually how can you build and modernize your applications, even if they are legacy in nature, by moving them to these three services. In the last section, we covered a whole lot of aspects at least a broad overview level on analytics, on IoT, on big data, on machine learning, and then finally on our Kubernetes platform. What I want to leave you with is, how we are an open environment, how we are in an open cloud, because clearly we don't want to lock you in with a technology that might again be dependent on your end customer. We offer a fairly simple, straightforward, customer-friendly pricing where you get sustained use discounts for using our platform. It's again an open platform which has options for multiple clouds. There's a reduced risk of lock-in for critical innovations. And these are, again, open standards with proprietary performance. Uh, a very unique feature on Google Cloud is to sort of have engineer to engineer support. Now, this becomes extremely critical for enterprise customers who are looking at a more personalized, a more customized response from a cloud vendor or cloud provider. And we have seen enterprise customers in India and across the globe going a lot, for engineer to engineer support because they get a whole lot of recommendations, a whole lot of advice, and these are Googlers whose full-time job is to provide environments and architecture that can help you optimize your cloud for best productivity. We spoke about our leadership in open source. I spoke about two technologies that are taking the world by storm. In fact, I was reading a stat with, after Linux, which was the hottest thing a few years ago, Kubernetes seems to be the highest, one of the highest engaged platforms and communities on GitHub. So we've got almost about over 2,000 projects that are released into open source and almost over 20 million lines of code contributed on just Kubernetes and TensorFlow. TensorFlow is again a technology that we use for developing and training machine learning models. And both of these are areas that you can start using today. Of course, with a little bit of training, a little bit of certifications, you can absolutely build and train your own machine learning models. You can start containerizing your applications and moving them to cloud. These are things that you can learn from and share across the platform that's available to you. I can tell you that Google Cloud has 7 times more repositories committed to than our competitors on these two open source technologies. And you can be a part of the community as well. To sum up, we are a cloud for the enterprise. Yeah, we effectively pride ourselves in believing that we have arrived in the enterprise world. We have in fact been working with a whole number of enterprise customers, and again, many of the enterprise specific drivers are dealt with through various channels in terms of security, in terms of ensuring that there is open architecture, in terms of providing the right sort of support. But to sum things up, we provide access control. Basically, the access control lies with you. We have encrypted data. We provide a virtual private cloud and identity and access management to make sure that your data and your applications are safe when we're working with enterprise customers. I mentioned to you on security how we are trusted, we are secure. We have 500 engineers whose full-time job is to make sure that your data is not lost. It's obviously protected from multiple cybersecurity threats. and we have managed keys and telemetry and auditability built in into our solutions. Bring your own, which means that you can bring your own applications. You can actually sort of bring older applications running on-prem or other cloud vendors, and we'll help you migrate those to Google Cloud and provide you a whole lot of freedom from overheads which are administrative in nature, and help you focus on the actual development, the actual customer experience, the actual productivity, this whole machine learning and AI, by leaving all of your infrastructure and other overheads to Google Cloud. How do you get started? There are multiple ways you can get started in different projects that you might be working on. You could do disaster recovery and data archiving, and that could be a great place to get started from just this whole storage solution point of view. We have analytics and big data, which can have which basically is through democratization of use of data, and you can start with your own data warehouse and see how you can kind of ingest more data from multiple data sources. You can do mobile apps and mobile app development. We have solutions like Firebase that can help you launch quickly and iterate constantly and scale massively to hundreds and thousands of users. And we're using these solutions within our own products today. You can even move your dev test environments to help speed up your application development and deployment because you have infrastructure available to you on demand. So dev tests are a great place to get started on the Google Cloud Platform journey, and also look at moving high value compute intensive workloads. I did mention to you workloads that range up to petabytes of data can be queried in seconds through BigQuery. Looking at some of these high value compute intensive workloads for better insights, for faster querying, this could be an area to get started. So these are 5 use cases I can think of where you as a team can decide on where do I want to get started, what do I want to pick up, and where will I be more successful in terms of developing a cloud strategy going forward. Here's a list of customers that we have on multiple platforms. Some of these customers may be familiar to you. You may be working with them. And we are more than happy to partner with you to see how we can go to market jointly and make Mphasis and Google Cloud more successful with these customers. We have customers on Google Cloud Platform in the first row. We've also got G Suite, which is a collaborative workforce transformation solution, and some great logos in there. We've got maps and APIs for geolocation services. A whole lot of our customers are using these. And then, of course, Chrome and Android that we use on our computers and mobiles. And we've got a whole lot of customers using these solutions from Google Cloud. In today's session, we focused a whole lot on the cloud platform fundamentals. And I know, with the limitation of time, we've been able to cover a whole lot to kind of give you an overview of what we have to offer. But at the same time, what we want to do is we want to sort of drill down on specific topics that Dr. J outlined in his first slide. And once we do deep dives to give you a little bit more flavor of these services and how can we replicate the use cases in your respective environments, I think you'll get a better sense of what Google Cloud, the power of Google Cloud is. Going forward, what we are happy to do is to work with you on achieving certifications and trainings, and then we will end the entire, of course, this entire journey of webinars and of course the trainings with a huge Mphasis Google Cloud Day that is planned at your premise to make sure that you get live engagement with Googlers, where you will be participating in hackathons and proof of concepts, and we can look at developing use cases on GCP products. I'm going to stop at the next 2 slides for 30 seconds each. I'm very happy to let you know that we're offering 2-month free access to Quick Labs. This is something that you can download. You can actually kind of scan the QR code, or you can go to the link that is mentioned in front of you. And these Quick Labs are effectively to get hands-on knowledge and hands-on training on some of the solutions that I covered in our session today. So if you're interested in, let's say, IoT, you can actually go and register and do a hands-on training on IoT using Quick Labs. I'm going to leave this on for 30 seconds to give you time to scan this QR code or to bookmark the link that is on the left. so that you can get 2 months of free access to start playing around, to start sort of seeing how exactly can you get a little bit more hands-on feel for each of these solutions. In fact, I got a question from the previous session about what is Quick Labs. It's actually a platform that gives you 30-minute individual labs to multi-day courses from introductory, level 2 expert, instructor-led, or self-paced with topics like machine learning, security, infrastructure, app dev, and more. So these are hands-on labs that you can access and get a feel of the solutions. Let me move on to the next slide. And again, very happy to give you a 1 month free Google Cloud specialization on Coursera. Please feel free to scan the QR code to get your to get access to the specialization course. The only term is that you're going to have a limit of one use per user, so please use judiciously. The best way to move forward would be to start with Coursera online courses, practice the corresponding quick labs so that you can get a hands-on feeling, and then you can build your favorite first project on GCP. If you want more details, you can go to cloud.google.com/training. This will be covered as a part of FAQ when we publish the link to you all. But if you again want to hear it out, it's cloud.google.com/training. Okay, with that, I'm going to pass this back to Dr. Jay to just walk us through the next steps. Dr. Jay, over to you.
Sure, Deepak. Thanks a lot. And I think there is a few seconds delay between the slide changing and because I see that if you look at the you're still on the yeah, now we have a link. So I think this is a new slide. There's a slight delay, a few seconds delay between the slides and when you're stopping the present. So people on the call, this is the link for Coursera QR code. The previous one was for Quick Labs. Of course, we'll publish some of the slides. Make full use of it because this is a tremendous gesture from Google. This is free credit you're getting. Please make the best use of it. So thanks a lot, and Dhandu and everyone for doing the second session on the same day. I know it's tiring for you guys doing the repeat of what we did in the afternoon. I hope the Mphasis team benefited from the session today. So, like I said in the beginning, let me just repeat for the sake of people who might have joined a bit late. This is the first of a series of seminars we are planning with Google. We are planning a few more seminars. The next few ones will be slightly more getting into the details of some of the topics. They're going to be in the cloud. They're going to be in the AI machine learning space. So that is where the Coursera and the quick lab links you can use to for those who are completely new to this area, so you can be prepared and be ready for the webinar. And of course, there are going to be more hands-on sessions, keynotes, hackathons, and contests, and of course, certification from Google. So we're going to have some large events planned, pan emphasis across all geographies. So look forward to some very interesting interactions with Google, and most importantly, building client relevant solutions and market along with Google. Thanks a lot. Deepak, you have to add anything as closing comments?
Thanks, Dr. Jeno. Really, I really appreciate the time that the Mphasis team has taken today to go through both the webinars across different geographic locations. It's a huge commitment of time. And I'm hoping that this partnership would really help in terms of helping build a great level of productivity within the organization, as well as helping you build some cool applications on Google Cloud Platform. We do have the chat channel open. If you have any questions, feel free to please post your questions. We have a team of experts, team of Googlers. I have a couple of very able Googlers who are sitting, and looking at all the questions that you're posting. I've got Dandu and I've got Srinivas on this call. They will be responding to your questions, if not live, but we will make sure that you get some responses offline. Just in closing, we did see some themes that came out of the last session, and I do understand that there obviously are a whole lot of questions about the difference that we have from Google Cloud Platform versus other cloud providers. I assure you that as we do a little bit more of a deep dives, and as we do the Google Cloud Day, you would definitely get to see a whole lot of differentiation coming out from GCP in areas that are of interest to you. So I'll leave it at that. In this forum, we would just kind of want to cover the overview, but we will get a little bit more detailed and more sort of differentiated in our deep dive sessions. So that's it really from me. Thank you again for your time. Please keep the questions coming, and we look forward to working with you. Thank you. Bye now.